Welcome back to the Starting Block. We are broadcasting live from Bitcoin Prague, BTC Prague. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to the afternoon session. We've got a stacked lineup of guests, starting off with Andrej Dragoš, a good friend of mine. He's head of research at Bitwise Europe and one of the brightest analysts out there when it comes to Bitcoin and the markets. Andrej, it's always good to see you in person.
Thank you.
Let's start off with where we are, man. Midway through 2026, the conversations we've had a few months ago, I don't know if either one of us would have thought that Bitcoin would be trading in these levels, but I do kind of feel like you did call it back then. But how do you see things like midway through the year?
So yeah, I think the major events between now and a couple of months ago were, of course, the February capitulation, right? And on the 5th of Feb, I think that's when we saw the most bearish sentiment since FTX, right? Which was like a clear contrarian signal and definitely a signal for seller exhaustion around that time. And I think it was quite natural that Bitcoin had this kind of knee-jerk reaction, right? Reversal to around 80K, 82K, right? And then we bounced off at these kind of critical cost bases, right? Short-term holder cost bases, ETF cost bases. And I think that was actually a decisive moment because usually these cost bases, they divide the market between bull and bear market.
Yeah.
Right, because once you're below these cost bases, the average investor is usually underwater, right? And once you're above these cost bases, the average investor is above break even, right? And so I think that's somewhat of a self-perpetuating kind of situation because if you're above break even, you tend to be less inclined to sell, right?
Yeah.
And so the market stabilizes and continues to rally. But of course, we rejected off these cost bases, rejected off the 80K level. And since then, we've been trading down again, right? And then we had this renewed sell-off, right? Which probably wasn't really coin specific, right? It wasn't really specific to Bitcoin or any kind of crypto event. It was mostly about what happened in TradFi, right? What happened in AI stocks, the semi-space. And I think the risk right now is, of course, because of these high valuations, because increasing bond yields, because of sovereign risk, because the Strait of Hormuz situation isn't resolved yet, right? It continues to drag on. That financial conditions are tightening at the margin, right? Because the market has been pricing in more rate hikes, right? There's higher rate hike probability because inflation has been going higher and so on, right? And I think what's also happening in the background is you're actually seeing a kind of tightening financial conditions, right? And Bitcoin, once again, and that's actually my thesis, Bitcoin once again has been this kind of canary in the macro coal mine.
Yeah.
Right? It tends to anticipate changes in liquidity, changes in financial conditions in advance, right? And that's why I think that there's definitely a correction risk in the NASDAQ as well, because if you look at things like private credit or leveraged loans, they've corrected quite a lot, right?
Yeah.
And they've been correcting since essentially end of 2025. And I think the Bitcoin bear market that we've seen so far is very consistent with this kind of tightening. And we also know that many of these private credit companies, they've been a large financier of the capex boom, AI capex boom, right? At least a large chunk, right? And so I think as credit conditions have deteriorated, Bitcoin has actually reflected this in advance, right, with a lead. And now I think the risk is in equities, not so much in Bitcoin, because what you've seen, especially last week, right, when the NASDAQ corrected like almost 5% in one single day on Friday, right, 4.7%. Bitcoin also dropped, of course, right, but it recovered over the weekend as if nothing happened.
Yeah.
So it shows that because we already have very low valuations, I think we're trading. In terms of various valuation metrics, we're probably trading in the lowest decile, right? The lowest 10% of historic valuations. If you look at MVRV, if you look at, I don't know, all kinds of valuation metrics, that Mayer multiple, and so on. Yeah, lowest 10%. And I think the market already sees the value in Bitcoin relative to the excessive valuations in semiconductors and AI stocks, right? And I think that's what's happening right now. And based on my anecdotal experience, conversations with investors I'm having right now, I think many asset managers are actually looking at this kind of trade. Many tech investors that have been invested into Bitcoin mining stocks even, that had this kind of AI tailwind as well, right?
Yeah.
They're now looking into shifting some of their capital back to Bitcoin, right? Which is super interesting. And I think that's where we are right now. I mean, I think Bitcoin's quite resilient because of these low valuations, because we've already done most of the correction. So we have seen most of the bear market, but I think what's lacking is still a positive catalyst, right?
Yeah.
We haven't really seen any kind of positive catalyst. Yeah.
The question is what will be the positive catalyst? I mean, just in like, I think it's fair to say, well, I'm not a technical, I don't do technical analysis. I'm not a markets expert, but from my experience, having been in the industry since 2017, I do feel like we're getting to some point of a bottom for the price of Bitcoin. That's my own opinion. Make of that what you will. But does it go lower? And the reason I asked you that is I spoke to Matthew Siegel from Van Eck last week in Paris, and he kind of said he thought we might go lower, and October might be that point, and then the 4-year cycle might actually be intact, and then we go up from there. Do you subscribe to that view, or do you think it's misguided?
I mean, so far the 4-year cycle has played out. At least the post-halving performance pattern, right, has played out. And I think it has become somewhat consensus that we bottom around October, right?
Yeah.
Because of the halving cycle. I think the market will front-run this kind of development. It will bottom earlier, so I think we'll bottom out earlier. But of course, the catalyst is still missing. But I think in terms of the question, will we go lower, or have we seen the bottom already? Was it 58K, right? Or will it be lower? I think what we do at Bitwise also, we have different kinds of models, right? Also quantitative models. And one of these more like experimental models is a bottom cycle probability model.
Say again?
It's a bottom cycle probability model.
Yes.
It shows you essentially the probability that we reach the cycle bottom.
Okay.
Right?
Now already?
Now, like in real time. And so it started increasing last week.
Okay.
It started increasing, but only marginally. Because I do think many of these on-chain indicators, valuation indicators, they already look very attractive or slash bombed out, right? Especially if you look at things like percentage of supply in loss or profit, it's around that 50% threshold, right?
Yeah.
But that said, previous bear markets, they have seen even lower numbers.
Yeah.
Right, and so I think pain is already there, right? It's quite clear that we're in a bear market and valuations are very attractive, but at the same time, I think they are not as bearish as in during previous cycle bottoms, and there could be some marginal downside left.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, we're probably talking about like max 20% more downside from here.
Okay.
I mean, we just hit the 200-week moving average around 61K.
Yeah.
That tends to be a significant support, at least it was a significant support in previous bear markets. I think realized price is also a very important level, around 56K, so that's the average acquisition costs of all on-chain investors. Below that, you only have the long-term holder cost basis, right?
Yeah.
Which is around 48K. I think that's like the max downside scenario in my view.
Okay. When it comes to advising your clients on how they should be allocating capital, I'm sure a lot of people have been asking, like, should we be investing in these big AI ICOs that are coming up? I think there's a general sentiment that that's sucked up a lot of capital, and maybe that has also played a role in, Bitcoin trading where it is right now. Are people asking you that kind of thing? And are you kind of saying to them, now's the right time to buy Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So I think SpaceX, it's happening today, right?
Yeah, Thursday, yeah.
So
should be, the market's open in what, 2 hours?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's of course the talk on the street today, right? I mean, it's supposed to IPO at I think $1.7 trillion valuation, right? I mean, in terms of market cap, it's almost half of Nvidia's market cap, which is huge, right? We haven't seen such a big IPO ever, right? It's a record IPO in terms of market cap. I think the last one was Saudi Aramco, was around 1 trillion in terms of market cap, but that one's it's almost twice as large, right?
Yeah.
And so it's definitely big. I do subscribe to that view that these IPOs suck the oxygen out of the room, sucks the liquidity out of other markets, right? In particular, Bitcoin. But it's not only with respect to capital or liquidity. I think what we've already seen is because many Bitcoin miners, they've migrated to AI, right?
Yeah.
What we've already seen is hash rate has come down a lot, right? By the most on record. So I do think we do see this kind of negative effect from AI on Bitcoin in different kinds of areas, right? And hash rate is one of them, and liquidity is probably another.
Yeah.
It might also explain why we've seen such a big divergence between global money supply, which is at all-time highs, right?
Yeah.
And Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin used to track global money supply very closely. Of course, before quantum risks became a thing, and all because before like semiconductors rallied like crazy and so on. But I do think quantum risks they have declined, right? They're still there, right? But they have declined at the margin. And I do think that Bitcoin's monetary properties remain unencumbered, right?
Yeah.
So far. And I do also subscribe to the thesis that Q-Day is probably farther away than anticipated.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of relationship, once you see probably like weakness in AI stocks that suck liquidity out of the room, that should reestablish at some point, I think.
Yeah. Let's talk about Michael Saylor. I mean, last week he sold 32 Bitcoin and then he bought back a significant, I think it was 10,000 Bitcoin this week. What did you make of that move? What do you think he was trying to do? You were also at the corporate day yesterday, so maybe he spoke about this on stage and explained the rationale. We'd invited him to the live stream, but he politely declined. So I'm not surprised, just given everything that's going on. But yeah, maybe you can give us your thoughts on why he did that, what his explanation was yesterday, and if it had a big impact in the price of Bitcoin in the last week.
So I think that kind of selling of these 32 Bitcoins, obviously it's not much in terms of like the daily ins and outflows in the exchanges, not much in terms of their of Strategy's Bitcoin stack, right? It was rather a kind of symbolic move, right? And I think he just wanted to send a signal that he has this kind of optionality, right? He can sell. And of course, was a negative catalyst, but in general, the negative driver actually came from ETP outflows, because in terms of the corporate treasury, Bitcoin Delta, their holdings, right? Not only MSCR, Metaplan, all kinds of treasury companies, it didn't really decelerate over the past months, right?
Yeah.
But what we saw was a significant deceleration in ETP flows, right? We saw net outflows.
Yeah.
Almost 2 billion in a single week.
Significant, yeah.
Very significant. And so I think in terms of Bitcoin supply that came onto the market because of these outflows was equivalent to 50,000, 50K Bitcoins, right, that hit the market.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And therefore, I think that was this fundamental driver behind the sell-off. And this could have various reasons, mostly related to the stock market probably, right? But I think what you also saw, I think Strive bought 32 Bitcoins, right?
Yeah.
And so they mitigated, of course, much of the selling, and they bought MSCR themselves. They bought a couple of thousand Bitcoins thereafter, right?
Yeah.
I think the MSCR is, of course, very important for the market, right? Because they've been the marginal buyer of Bitcoin this year.
Yes.
It hasn't been ETFs, ETPs this year. It was all about treasury companies and essentially MSCR, right?
Yeah.
And so, sorry, I think, of course, as Stretch is trading below par because we have the yield spike and sovereign bonds, right? There's some kind of tightening financial conditions. The high dividend yield of Stretch has become relatively less attractive. Still high, but in a relative world has become less attractive. And that's why also Stretch is trading below par. Of course, now strategy has two options, right? Either use the common stock, issue more common, and buy Bitcoin, continue buying Bitcoin, or increase the dividend yield, right? To bring back Stretch above par again, and
par,
to be able to issue more Stretch, right? But let's see. Maybe he pauses, he waits, sits things out. Let's see. But that would imply that we won't see a re-acceleration in institutional demand, MSCR demand, right?
Yeah.
But I think in terms of general institutional demand, I think it's quite likely that we'll see some kind of reversal in ETP flows over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. With the market being where it is right now, do you think this is the real litmus test for Bitcoin treasury companies? Like if the best of the best can withstand suppressed prices for such a long period of time and weather the storm? Because I mean, it's definitely, it's not good. Someone was saying to me, the value, I think it was the value of Bitcoin treasury companies since BTC Prague last year is down like 90%. So it's like, it's
quite
not
a lot.
good. What's your general thought on that?
Yeah, we had a peak treasury company summer last year, right? And since then we've been in a bear market, which also, I think, also speaks volumes in terms of financial conditions, right? But I do agree, it's definitely a litmus test. But I don't think it's a litmus test in terms of drawdown itself. I think it's more a litmus test in terms of duration. Right, because we know even if like Bitcoin declines like another 20-30% from here, Bitcoin strategy is already underwater, right? Like Bitcoin's price already below MSCR's cost basis, and so they do have a lot of cash reserves, right? They've just replenished their cash reserves. They have around 1 billion cash reserves. So they can keep going without even selling Bitcoin, without.
They can pay the dividends.
They can pay the dividends, right? And so I think it will be a litmus test if we see a prolonged bear market, right? But once we start seeing recovery, I think strategy will be fine, right?
What do you think of Michael Saylor and Stretch in general? Do you think it was like quite an ingenious, innovative financial product? And are you surprised that no one else stumbled upon doing it the way that he had done it?
I think it's a genius financial product, right?
Yeah.
I think what came up yesterday during the Bitcoin corporate day was the question of where does the yield come from?
Yeah.
And it's a legitimate question because the dividend yield's quite high, right? It's a perpetual instrument, so it pays ad infinitum, right? And so the way I view it is the yield comes essentially from two sources. So one source is Bitcoin price appreciation.
Yes.
And the other source is fiat depreciation, right? Because he pays a fixed dividend of $11.5 in fiat terms.
Yes.
Right? And so we know $11.5 today or tomorrow is less worth than today, right? And so on. And so that value in real terms will decline.
He's paying less and less over time.
Less that in real terms, right? Even if it's ad infinitum, right? But Bitcoin price appreciation is the other major source, of course. But I think the risk that, or the thing that Saylor does and MSCR does is they do maturity transformation.
Yeah.
Right? They have to pay dividends, fixed dividends, more or less fixed. Well, we know they can change the dividend and so on, but more or less fixed dividends on Stretch, right, in the short term. But at the same time, Bitcoin's price appreciation is volatile. It's more like a medium to long-term thing, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of appreciation doesn't accrue in the short term, and especially in bear market, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, that's the big issue. Yeah, he has to navigate this kind of maturity transformation, and in between this kind of bear and bull market, of course, there's risk. There's a risk, right? That he has enough cash reserves, that he can continue paying those dividends and so on.
Yeah.
But I think it's a genius kind of move because I think Saylor's thesis, and I actually agree with it, is like it's very hard to explain Bitcoin to ordinary people.
Yeah.
Right? Like the investment case, the fact why it has 40% vol and why it's actually a good thing, because it also implies higher performance expectations and so on. Because many people, they just want like a steady income. They don't want to overthink, right?
Yeah.
They want 10% fixed and don't want to think about too much, like a little volatility. And I think what he does is he actually skips the education part about Bitcoin. Right? Maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing, right? But he essentially skips that education part and goes straight to, here's what you like, right? 10% or double-digit return with little volatility, almost no volatility, right? And it's based on Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
And he both are happy, right? He can continue buying Bitcoin, gets lots of capital, while he doesn't need to educate like millions and millions of investors about Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he understands the value of Bitcoin and what it is and why it's the perfect, collateral for digital credit.
Exactly.
But it's not. He doesn't need to go very hard to tell people the how and why about Bitcoin. I mean, I think all of his talks that I've ever seen him on stage, that like they're very engaging, and I think he does understand Bitcoin from a very fundamental point of view. But and many other critics have said this before, that he perhaps doesn't see or value Bitcoin as money or a monetary protocol like other Bitcoin, maximalists or proponents do. Like, it's a store of value, but it's also a monetary system. You can transfer value around the world without a central party having to do that,
Yes.
And that's the actual value proposition. But for Saylor, this is a highly valuable store of value that's going through price appreciation, and it's akin to just having gold on your balance sheet and using that as the instrument. So yeah, it's very interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few months. We've got Jack Mallers coming up in a couple of minutes' time. My final question to you, just on the broader markets. We sat down with Hunter Horsley 3 or 4 weeks ago in Consensus in Miami. I'm sure there's a lot of viewers out there. The Block is obviously not a Bitcoin-only publication. We're at a Bitcoin-only conference, but I will just ask you your general thoughts on like the overall like altcoin markets and where you see that going, because there's a lot of people out there that are like, when alt season, is that going to happen?
So what we also do at Bitwise is we calculate an altcoin excitement index.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really flagged any kind of excitement.
Okay, that's not good.
But I think the general narrative is that the store of value kind of narrative has somewhat died down, right, more recently. I mean, it has flared up with the Strait of Hormuz situation, right, in terms of cross-border payments and settlement. But I think the market's now focusing very much on on-chain finance.
Yeah.
Right, on tokenization and stable coins. And we can see that it's actually accelerating. If you look at the activity, if you look at RWAs and stable coins on Ethereum especially, but all kinds of chains, it keeps continuing to go up from bottom left corner to upper right corner, right? It's definitely one of the more consistent and steady mega trends. But I think it's very much dependent on the regulatory outcome in the US, right?
Yeah.
It's still uncertain whether we will get a Clarity Act in the US, right? I think they want to enact it on the 4th of July.
Yeah, that would be great.
But nobody knows. I think Polymarkets assess like the probability at 60%, but I think that will be a key catalyst for an alt season.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Andre, thanks so much for coming and chat to us. I always enjoy talking markets with you because you've got such a breadth of knowledge and a really good way of breaking it down in layman's terms. So thanks again for joining us. If you're not following Andre on X, you can find the details on my X account at GazzaJenks. We've tagged all the upcoming speakers through the live session that we'll be broadcasting throughout the afternoon. We've got Jack Mallers joining us in a couple of minutes' time. We'll take a short break. If you're enjoying the stream, please like and retweet. Let your friends know that we've got Jack Mallers and a few other big names joining us throughout the afternoon. But keep it locked on the Block socials. We'll be back in a few minutes' time. Welcome back to the Starting Block. We're broadcasting live from BTC Prague, and I'm joined by none other than Jack Mallers. Jack, it's great to see you again. The last time we met was in Bitcoin Vegas a little over a year ago, and a lot has changed.
Yeah.
First of all, how are you? I like the tan. You've clearly been in the sun.
The sun's important, man.
Yeah.
I think the story of humanity is commercializing energy from the sun. We need it. It's good to see you, man. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Good.
Yeah, the last time we saw each other was at a competitor to the block. I joined the block about 4 months ago.
Congrats.
Yeah, we started this new show, The Starting Block. We ran a live show last week, and again, we're here as the official live streaming partner for BTC Prague. So really enjoying the process and enjoying sitting down across the table from big brains like you. So it's good to see you again. Really, a lot has changed in a year. I think when we were chatting to each other in Vegas last year, Bitcoin must have been trading, I think it was still above $100,000. From everyone that I've spoken to right now, we're kind of in the depths of a bear market. You've been through a few bear markets. How are you feeling at this stage, like midway through 2026? It's been a bit rough.
I feel great. I think that Bitcoin is one of, if not the only free markets we have left.
Yeah.
It's the only functioning smoke alarm for fiat liquidity that we have left. And so I think it's just telling us the truth.
Yeah.
I do my keynote on Saturday, and one of my slides shows consumer sentiment as measured by the University of Michigan. It's never been lower, ever, in recorded history. Lower than 2008, lower than 2000, lower than the 1980s, never been lower. And meanwhile, the S&P 500 is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
And the reason I give that context is, well, clearly, when you introduce central planning, central intervention, you distort the free market's ability to deliver signal, to deliver truth.
Yeah.
And so the S&P 500 is clearly not an accurate reflection and a truth-defining KPI for how the people are doing.
Yeah.
Right? You've got one thing all-time highs, the other thing all-time lows. And so I think Bitcoin is the closest thing we have to the monetary reflection of truth.
Yeah.
Active, 24/7, traded indicator of how the world's doing.
Yeah.
And what it's telling me is there's not enough filthy fiat floating around the filthy financial system to support all this debt, all this spending.
Yeah.
I mean, nations want to go to infinite amounts of war.
Yeah.
They want infinite amounts of military budget. They want infinite amount of debt. They want infinite amount of deficit spending. They want infinite amounts of AI build out.
Yeah.
And there's just not enough liquidity out there to support that. And I think Bitcoin's telling us that.
Yeah.
Consumer sentiment's telling us that. And so I think they have to print money. I think the dollar has to get debased.
Yeah.
Or currencies broadly. We're in Europe. But until then, Bitcoin is going to do what it does best, which is be a truth machine that no central government or central party can distort and interfere with.
Yeah, for sure. Look, when it comes to Strike and how what your user base is telling you, are you seeing a lot less people signing up and actually trading or DCAing into Bitcoin? What are the kind of data trends telling you?
To be honest, Strike is exceeding my expectations as a business. Things like revenue looks like will still grow year over year. But yes, things like our top of funnel is what we call it internally. New user registrations or the different types of customers actively buying Bitcoin has declined for sure. When Bitcoin's at 126,000, it's far more interesting. But again, I bring it back to Bitcoin's telling us there's not enough liquidity. When people say, well, who's selling all this Bitcoin?
Yes.
Right? Strategy comes out, sold 32 Bitcoin. Irrelevant. Who cares?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, well, if it's not them, who is it?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, think of it this way. Whoever needs to raise cash. You need to raise cash because you're late on your credit card payment, because you missed rent, because you committed a bunch of money to AI companies that you don't have yet.
Yes.
Because, what if Iran, who's supposedly accepting Bitcoin to settle commodity trade amidst war, well, what if Trump comes out and says, screw the ceasefire, war goes on? Well, we need weapons. We need to turn sats to weapons.
Yeah.
That's selling. And so I think the world is short liquidity. It's short cash.
Yeah.
Everyone's raising cash, no matter who you are in life. And that makes Bitcoin you sell what you can, not what you want.
Yeah.
And so yes, the world is in cash raising mode as opposed to cash saving mode.
Yeah.
When people are in an abundance of an ability to save, our business is a lot more popular.
Yes.
But I've been through so many market cycles at this point. I mean, I look like I'm 12. People assume that I'm 12. But I don't know how many people have more experience in this industry than I do.
No.
And Strike is wise beyond its years in that sense. And we've built a business that's resilient to these type of markets. And it's fun managing this because we do not want to be in a position where we cannot aggressively invest and meet customers when they truly need us most with different lending products, expanding into different markets, getting our Mika license, things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of the team of walking the line between aggressively investing, remaining a profitable operation, finding growth, listening to customers, but of course not being so overly exposed where, market conditions of tight fiat liquidity, they haven't printed enough fiat for all of the degeneracy around us.
Yeah.
It doesn't impact us in a way that changes who we want to be.
Yeah. When it comes to Bitcoin lending, how have you seen that kind of part of your business grow since you launched it? Because it was around the time we spoke in Vegas that you launched it, right? It's been about a year. Obviously, with the price going down, that introduces an element of risk for people lending against their Bitcoin. But how's that part of the business looking? And are you still quite bullish on the future of Bitcoin lending as a way to access capital and not sell your sats?
Dude, so I've been building on Bitcoin for almost 14 years.
Yeah.
This is the most successful product I've ever launched. And it's interesting, right? Because that's not necessarily what I want, like as a human, although I do think it's a great product, but it's the truth. And it's the fastest growing, infinite amounts of demand. It's also the most nascent industry for the level of success. I mean, we estimate that the Bitcoin-backed lending market, CeFi, where with all these AI models finding bugs and everything at the snap of a finger, DeFi terrifies me. We will not be participating in that. So I categorize CeFi.
Yeah.
I think this market's $20 to $30 billion in size of loans against Bitcoin, against a $1.25 trillion asset, 50% off its highs. That's tiny. There's nothing.
Yeah.
We're the first to have like a regulated, at scale, United States accessible line of credit.
Yeah.
Like, what? So it's the most successful, infinite amounts of demand. Why? Well, our customers have a very similar story. Everyone gets into Bitcoin, maybe 1% of your net worth. Test it out. And whether it's because you grew in your conviction or because Bitcoin just went up a lot, or both, it becomes 25% of your net worth, 50% of your net worth, 90% of your net worth. If something goes up 50% a year on average for 5 years, for 10 years, either you're Stephen Curry and you're getting like insane levels of salary income, or that's going to dominate your net worth.
Yeah.
And so you have an asset that people don't want to sell because of taxes and because of performance, but it's the cornerstone of their financial life. It's their savings vehicle. It's their savings account. So how do you get liquidity? How do you buy a house, finance a medical emergency, use a line of credit to pay off your credit card while saving in this thing? And it's the most successful thing I've ever launched. So I'm incredibly bullish on it. We are trying to, where I think Strike, we're incredibly good at building accessible, useful, easy to use products.
Yeah.
We care a lot about design, user experience, friendly interfaces. And so when we showed up to the market and when I was talking to you, we initially just had 12-month fixed duration loan, like what you are probably used to.
Yeah.
Since then, we've been able to launch line of credit, tier our pricing so that our pricing is dynamic and we can be some of the cheapest in the world. This is an OTC product that we're bringing to everyone this month, is a loan product where you don't get liquidated.
Yeah.
Where you pay a slight premium, so you're paying a little bit more of a fee, but there's no such thing as liquidation. bringing proof of reserve quarterly audits to our product, an ability where we're segregating collateral, where if you're a high value customer and you want us to put your collateral in a separate address that you can cradle it at night. And so more innovation, more accessibility. The idea of Bitcoin-backed credit to me is not just a 12-month loan. There's so much to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the beginning. Most successful thing I've ever launched. Proud of the team, happy for the customers that support us. And I think as long as they're debasing the currency as much as they are, which implies Bitcoin will grow on average as much as it has, I mean, it's 20 to 30% capital gains to sell it in the United States.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I'm foregoing appreciation of saving it. It just makes more sense to get a single digit line of credit loan or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
no, it's a lifeline. And I didn't know that you had the facility that like foregoes liquidation, because I think that was like a big criticism from a lot of Bitcoiners and people online is like, this is a dangerous game to play because if the price of Bitcoin goes down a lot, people can get liquidated, then they lose all their Bitcoin and they're stuck with repayments.
Let me tell you a story. I was at a conference and a Bitcoiner who obviously meant well came up to me and said, "You're irresponsible for allowing 50% LTV. So 50% is half. So if you give me $100,000 of Bitcoin, I put it in an address and I give you up to $50,000 of cash.
Yeah.
So half. So that's irresponsible because Bitcoin's so volatile, they might get liquidated. That's your fault. You should only let them get 10% of the cash or 5% of the cash, which would make them more over-collateralized, less risk."
Yes.
And it's an interesting philosophical discussion because I come from a Austrian school, Austrian economics, free market, right? And what I told the guy was, my job is not to mitigate and price your risk.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not your dad.
Yeah.
My job is to protect my own company. My own company is not willing to give you any more cash than 50%.
Yes.
Because we have our own risk to manage.
Of course.
How you guys use it, I sell products to adults. If you're not 18 years old, you're not allowed to use Strike, literally.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting philosophy of, if you want 10% LTV, you should add more collateral, but is it truly my job to determine what's best for everybody else? To say no one's allowed, because conversely, if I set the LTV to 10%, then the Bitcoiner has to deposit more of their cold storage Bitcoin onto my platform, and I don't necessarily want that either. That would also act against the ethos of keep your coins in your custody.
Yeah.
And so we launched the product under this philosophy, which was we're responsible for our own balance sheet, and we're not going to be, people say, well, can you give me a loan and I keep the custody? It's like, good luck asking someone for $1 million and they don't get the collateral to protect themselves. Because if you never give me the money back, then I go out of business, I fire all of my employees, and I go work at McDonald's.
It's just never going to happen.
So it's just never going to happen. And so we've been trying, we pride ourselves, transparency, authenticity, truth, cheap pricing, great products. And so we said, we're responsible for ourselves. This is how it works. This is why it works this way. Use it responsibly. And some of the feedback was interesting, was like, okay, we understand all of that. However, is there a way that you can somehow protect us from these kind of flash crashes?
Yeah.
We don't want to put you and your balance sheet at risk, but we also, the customer effectively said, I would rather pay a few percentages higher in fee to remove that risk entirely.
Yeah.
And so we're like, a philosophy we have at the company is, our job is not to predict the future. Our job is to just shut up and listen to customers. And so we just tried to find a way to do it, and that's what we built.
Yeah.
So anyway.
It's a nice anecdote. I mean, it's worth explaining that to people, because that's the thing. It's like you're a public-facing figure, and people don't realize what you go through when you're going to these conferences, and everyone wants to tell you how they think you should do things.
Sure, and it's less about that. That's fine. We could get into a separate conversation.
Yeah.
But it's more like, what's the appropriate philosophy for this type of product? Because to your point, there's risk implied. I mean, you're taking out a loan.
Yes.
You owe money. It's collateralized. And being collateralized is also, I think it's great. How would I give someone a loan in Ghana if I couldn't collateralize it by Bitcoin? Would they take a picture of their house and send it to me and ask me to assess the property value?
Yeah.
What's your eye color? Where'd you go to school? What's your parents' name? Where'd they go to school? No. Deposit the Bitcoin. Here's how much dollars or Naira or SETI or Tether I'm willing to give you against that.
Yeah.
Accessible to everybody. No risk to me as the lender, as I have the collateral, and you guys can assess your risk appropriately. And if you want to pay a little bit more, I'll never liquidate you, because by the way, for everyone to know, I'm using the extra money not to pocket, but to hedge.
Yes, yeah. So if it does come to that thing, you're
Everyone's
covered.
good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just more of our corporate approach is free market philosophy, Austrian school type of ethics, which I think resonates with our customers too.
For sure. The product is the product. There were some videos circulating around you yesterday asking Michael Saylor about MNAV, but before I ask you about that, what did you think about him selling Bitcoin last week, and why do you think he actually did that and then went and bought a load of Bitcoin this week? Do you think he was just testing the water to say, hey, everyone, we can actually do this to raise some capital to be able to cover our dividend, and it's not going to nuke the market and everything's going to crash and burn?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm on record having questions about some of this stuff and about the perpetual preferred instruments, but not because they're bad. They could be great. I just don't understand. I think they're testing the waters because they have to sell Bitcoin because of the new way they've structured the company, which again, isn't necessarily a bad thing, but Bitcoin Treasury Company, call it 4 years ago, which was just MicroStrategy at the time.
Yes.
It was a simpler capital structure and a simpler idea, which was you're raising these convertible notes. A convertible note has two variables in it. There's one, which is the coupon, how much interest you pay for the money. And then the second is at what premium does it convert into equity? And so if I were, for hypothetical example, if I were to say a company raised a 1-up-30, that means they raised a convert at a 1% coupon, so they're paying 1% interest expense on that. And up 30 means a 30% premium to the equity is when it converts. So if a stock is hypothetically at $10, the equity the money would convert at $13 a share.
Yes.
And back in the day during COVID, you were able to raise a 0% coupon, so you're paying 0% interest, and the conversion is like 30, 40, 50, 60%.
Yeah.
And so you're basically selling equity at $13, $14, $15, $16 for a stock that's at 10. So like using today's terminology, what's the MNAV there? Like super rich, super accretive, and super simple. Okay, when you introduce the perpetual, these preferred instruments, they're different than those converts. So nowadays, a company has 4 classes. They have Bitcoin, they have common equity, they have preferred, and they have debt holders, those 4. Now, if you are a company that owes, with the perpetual preferreds, a perpetual means it's non-callable, it never converts. So you owe the money forever. And so you have this, it's like having a coupon payment, like this 1% coupon.
Forever.
So you have the 11.5% coupon forever. So you need to come up with liquidity. So the question is, how do you pay that bill? And it's like, okay, well,
sell Bitcoin or issue shares.
Yeah. So, and the question that I've been asking, which again, I have no doubt that all these people have this figured out. Like, to be clear, I've been wrong. Like I think it's Bitcoin ethos to just like ask questions genuinely. Like, also
Jack.
Public conversation, open source code. I have private conversations too. But my question is, how do you make the whole capital stack happy?
Yeah.
Because if you have a Bitcoin position that's underwater and you have an equity that's trading under net asset value, then you could sell Bitcoin, which makes the common shareholders happy, the preferred holders happy, and the debt holders happy, but it is bad for Bitcoin and Bitcoin holders.
Yes.
You can sell common equity, which makes the Bitcoiners happy, which makes the preferred holders happy, and the debt holders happy, but it's bad for the common shareholder.
Yes.
You could not appease the preferred people by saying like, well, right now, we just don't got it.
Yeah.
Because bear market.
We're not going to raise the interest rate to get it back to par or whatever.
Yeah, and bear market, Bitcoin needs to go up a bit. The stock needs to go up a bit. That makes Bitcoiners happy, common equity holders happy, preferred holders not happy, debt holders happy. And so, yeah, that's basically the question of why are they testing the waters to sell the Bitcoin? Well, they need to communicate to the market, it's not never sell. And Saylor said, it's not never sell, it's buy more than you sell. But they need to basically condition the market to say like, hey, we need to come up with money forever. And at times we might have to, pick your bucket. We might have to say like, sorry, Bitcoin, but I need to protect MSTR and protect STRC and protect our convert folks.
Yeah.
And that's the decision we're making. And you referenced a question I asked yesterday. I'm trying to figure out what is MNAV and what is dilution.
Yeah.
Because obviously that depends on if they say, if they sell MSTR instead of Bitcoin, and people are asking me like, well, does that mean that the common is getting screwed? I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess it depends on your definition. So I'll stop there.
Gotta ask Saylor.
These are just, I don't know. And the story behind yesterday, this is live so people know. People are like, you could have called the guy and had the conversation in private. I have plenty of conversations with Michael, go to dinner all the time. The story was I was on a panel before that, and people were asking me these questions and these topics were brought up, and I was like, hey, listen, I don't know. Like, if we don't have a universal definition of MNAV and we don't have a universal definition of dilution, like if selling equity for cash is not dilution, then I can't have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I leave, I go get in my Uber, and then I get a text, like Michael's on stage saying, if you want to ask questions, you should get back in there and have a conversation with him directly.
Yeah.
And so I canceled my Uber and I walked back in. So that's the clips everyone's seeing, and those are the questions I have, and who knows, but that's why, any company that I am running or founder of and stuff, like, haven't done the preferred stuff because I haven't fully personally understood these parts yet.
Listen, I mean, we're pretty much out of time, but I do just want to say,
sorry.
No, it's all good. I can see Dylan in the background floating as well. I think we're running out of time, but I just want to say, like, I think it's fantastic that someone like you is asking those questions, because we need to ask questions. It's okay to ask questions and at least just convey the doubts that we have in our mind about these financial instruments that are being built in real time. They're fantastic, it's innovative, but it's not without risk. And do we understand the risk? And if you don't ask the people that are building the products what the definition is and what the risks are, none of us know, and then we're not having a constructive conversation about that.
Yeah, can I just go on a rant real quick?
Listen, we can run as long as you want to run.
So not only do I obviously agree with that, but I just want to say something. I think ego for any person in life is the most expensive burden to carry, period.
Yeah.
Being wise, wisdom, is achieved through proof of work, through experience, through trial and error, through failure. If becoming wise was as simple as reading 5 books, we'd all be wise.
Yeah.
We'd all order the same books off Amazon, read them, and be wise. But not everyone is wise. Wise implies proof of work. You tried things, you failed, you persevered, you learned.
Yeah.
And so I think the pursuit of wisdom, of learning, is a form of ego death. And I think that there's a culture of that in Bitcoin as well.
For sure.
You have to kill your ego and say, the first time you bought Bitcoin, you probably had to look in the mirror and be like, I was wrong. This thing is interesting. I should have bought it when I first heard about it, right? And we all go through this type of like, shoot, I don't want it to be a bear market. I just got engaged. I was gonna get a nice wedding. I was gonna get a nicer house. What's Bitcoin doing getting in the way of my life? And you realize you're on Bitcoin's time. Bitcoin's not on your time.
Yeah.
Your job is to contribute to something larger than you, not make something so large about you.
Precisely.
And so what everyone should know is like, as my life has become more like a public figure you referenced earlier, like people hold you to a standard that I don't want to be.
Well, you didn't choose it either.
Well,
they're dictating that for you.
No, there's pros and cons to everything, but my point is like, it's egoless. Like, I'm not right or wrong.
Yeah.
The point is, I've been in this game for so long, the point is to have no ego and be vulnerable enough to be like, yo, that was a stupid question, you idiot.
Yeah.
Or, hey, you're wrong. But I like think that's a really important, as long as we're at a Bitcoin conference, like appreciation of culture of not only is it important to ask questions, have conversation in the public, but you know, the wise man has no ego.
Yeah.
Ego prevents you from the proof of work required to acquire wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah, precisely. Thank you for that. Like it's very profound, and I must say, yeah, it's just great. Like, I'm a journalist, man. I've asked thousands of stupid questions in my life, but like, it's the pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit of truth, if you believe in some sort of objective truth, and that's what that is. I do just want to say to the stream, like, I did want to ask you questions about 21, but I know that you cannot, so I just want to put a disclaimer out there that I am putting that on hold, because I would take that you guys have some news or announcements coming up fairly soon.
Yeah, and I mean, I talk about 21 every Monday on my own show.
Yeah.
I know, you know, you wanted to host Sailor on the live stream, and he said, I can't do live stuff. The public company live stuff is complicated, and we all have lawyers and teams that make us look like wussies, and we're not. I mean, I would love to talk about it, and if anyone has questions for me, just tweet at me or meet me on my Monday live stream where my lawyers have given me the stuff. So yeah, not your fault.
No, that's okay. I just want people to understand that I'm not also avoiding asking you questions. I just want people to understand that it's hard to do that on a live stream.
Totally. And 21, I mean, there are really good, hard questions to ask about 21 too.
Yeah.
I'm not oblivious to that. Absolutely acknowledged, and I'm not like throwing stones from a glass house. Stones fly back my way too, and that's part of it.
Exactly. Look, I'd love to have you on the starting block in like the next few weeks or a month. I wanted to talk to you about AI and everything, but we can get onto that in another conversation in a few weeks or months' time. But like, it's always good to catch up with you. Thanks so much for taking the time.
You got it, brother.
Yeah, it's really good. Keep it locked on the live stream. We've got a couple more interviews coming up this afternoon. We are broadcasting live from BTC Prague. Lots of big names here throughout the next 3 days. So keep it locked on the Block socials. We'll be right back. Welcome back to BTC Prague. We're broadcasting live here from the conference. We've had some fantastic conversations already today. If you just missed it, we sat down with Jack Mallers, so you can always rewind on the stream if you want to catch that conversation, or you can stay with us live. I'm chatting to Julian Figueroa and Giacomo Zucco. Gentlemen, it's very good to sit down across from you two, and like it's the first time I've done the live stream with two people, so
we will go easy on you.
Double trouble.
Yeah, we'll go easy on you.
Yeah, double trouble. When I got you guys together, I was like, what am I gonna speak to you both about? But I think a core part of both of what you do is educating people and introducing people to Bitcoin. So I think just for the audience out there at the block that might not know you guys and who you are, we'll just start with you, Julian. You can give them a quick TLDR of who you are, what you've been doing the last few years, and why you're one of, in my mind, like one of the upcoming faces of like Bitcoin education.
So, well, first of all, welcome up live. I'm Julian. I run a show called The Exit Manual, and it's basically the show that I wanted, and I probably would have bought Bitcoin a lot sooner if I had it back in 2015. It combines education about Bitcoin, sound money, with a lot of comedy, me doing a bunch of silly effects with Kling, and just, it's like, I take pride, it's the most fun show in Bitcoin. And we're going broader with it too. We're going to talk more about like more Gen Z related economic stuff, and just trying to get people to use Bitcoin as like the biggest tool in their sovereignty toolkit, and just hopefully grow a following of people who don't want to be sheep.
It is growing pretty quickly. I mean, like 30K followers, and obviously you were part of the team at GetBase TV, which has done some like really cool YouTube-based documentaries as well. So yeah. I'm a big fan of the content.
Trying to have fun, touch grass, you know, get outside.
Yeah. Exactly. Giacomo, you've been in charge of Plan B for a long time, but a Bitcoiner longer than probably most out there.
Well, not most. 2013 I started. I have done a few things since then. One of the things was to open a Bitcoin research and consultancy education hub in Milan from 2013 to 2018. Then we closed it down. And now basically part of my job with Plan B is to reopen it. The Plan B initiative is an initiative in the city of Lugano, Switzerland, sponsored by Fulgur Ventures and Tether. And basically the idea is 5 pillars. One is the conference, which is very famous, the Plan B Forum. It's going to happen here in Lugano in October. Then there is another one end of January in San Salvador. And around the conference, we do the Plan B Week, which is a lot of stuff, including the Cypher Tank, which is this new format, like Shark Tank for Bitcoin, and many other events. Then the second pillar is payments. We try to orange pill the entire city of Lugano. 400 merchants accept Bitcoin. My wife, spent, I think, 2 weeks only paying Bitcoin. You can do almost everything. I bought my car in Bitcoin. Food, of course. There's still some merchants missing, but it's pretty cool. And we are trying to do also real estate, and we experiment with new payment rates like Arcade, Arc, Spark, and whatever. And the third pillar is a physical space. We have this kind of proof of work space, which is a place for startups, many famous startups like Arc Labs, Ocean, Bull Bitcoin now, many of them incorporated there. And then there is a VC fund, which is basically supporting the startups in the ecosystem. And last is the education initiative, which is the Plan B Academy, which is an open source free education platform, and the summer school every year Lugano, which I'm running in 2 weeks. Yeah. Students from all around the world coming there with important speakers to become future Bitcoin employees and entrepreneurs. And we have university programs. I'm now a professor in Taipei for some reason, like NTUT in Taipei, and I run a executive master in the University of Turin, Polytechnic of Turin. So a lot of stuff in the last few years.
How do you sleep, bro? I mean, when you put it like that, like wrapping your head around what you've done in the industry and like for Bitcoin it's a lot. I would say you're one of the unsung heroes. I mean, like Bitcoiners at a conference like this know you very well, but a lot of people like should appreciate more what you've done.
People just look at me for my body, so I cannot really.
No, you're a beautiful specimen. I wanted to chat to both of you guys just about like the sort of the landscape of Bitcoin education and where you see things right now, because I had a very fascinating conversation with Jameson Lopp, and he was kind of like, he said to me that when Andreas Antonopoulos kind of stopped being involved in teaching people about Bitcoin, we lost like a very important resource and someone that helped a lot to orange pill people into Bitcoin and introduce them to what Bitcoin was. And do you think that we still have the same velocity when it comes to teaching people about Bitcoin? And why does it seem like adoption has slowed down? And like, that's my perspective. You guys can challenge me on that. But I do feel like there's a lot less retail interest in Bitcoin in the last couple of years than there has been in a long time. And it might just be that we've lost the right educators, or the content's not right, or we're just not engaging people right. And this could be a talking point for you and the way you want to approach your content going forward.
I mean, I think there was a novelty to Bitcoin around the time that Andreas Antonopoulos was talking about it. Like, we were not talking about it in terms of digital gold or this thing that you even have in your portfolio. It was like, are you feeling lucky, kid? Like, try this new decentralized libertarian vision of the future.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's largely gone now. It's been institutionalized. I think the onslaught of 1 billion shit coins has kind of taken away the luster of Bitcoin, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And now, the thing that's interesting to me is I actually think we're getting a little bit just more honest with what Bitcoin is, and it's a savings tool. It is like the best savings tool possible. I hope one day that we have hyper-Bitcoinization, but I also realize, like, 80% of people would vote for communism if you gave them the chance to. Not everybody wants to be sovereign and independent.
Yeah.
The point with Bitcoin is that we need to have that layer where you can have full sovereignty. But the harsh reality is like 100+ million people are not going to have hardware wallets and run all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I still think that they can benefit from it. And so I think it's our job now to figure out, well, we know that not everyone's going to be sovereign, so we can't just keep pitching this old vision of Bitcoin to, people who can't even, set their own internet passwords better than 1234. We can't sell them on that. And I don't want to sound like an asshole, but it's just true.
Yeah, it is
I
true.
still think those people deserve to benefit from Bitcoin. And the question is, like, what is the best way to get them exposed, their work, their time and effort to Bitcoin? And to me, it's just keep it simple. It's a savings tool. Instead of blowing your money at like a 2% savings account, just put it into Bitcoin and just don't think about it for 50 years. Don't check the price. You don't even have to become a cypherpunk. Learn basic self-custody, right? I prefer you do that. And then that's it. And then just let it ride, Live a good life, do good things.
Yeah.
So especially the early Bitcoiners, we miss Andreas, of course. He was my personal hero at the beginning. He was the guy teaching me all the first guiding me to the first step.
Yeah.
But I would disagree with James on that. After him, education went down. Actually, he went up and it diversified into different styles. Andreas had a very unique voice. He was the first, so his role was one size fits all because he was the only and first major educator and good at his job.
Yeah.
But he was very idiosyncratic, like we all are, with some specific angles and things. In particular, there are many possible dilemmas that you can face in education style or topic. One is digital gold versus payment focus.
Yeah.
Now that's something that involved all of us. When I started to be interested in Bitcoin in 2013, I read an article about digital gold on a Mises Institute website, so it was already narrative. Satoshi Nakamoto mentioned the Mises regression theorem, and there is a lot of reference to gold in the protocol itself, like mining. But of course, we were all expecting it to take over e-commerce mostly, and then maybe also in-person payments. That didn't happen. If you asked me in 2013, will it be used by treasuries or public companies or nation states? No, and it is. So it was surprising, but I think it's also a natural understanding on the phases of monetization or any kind of asset. In the past, if you read Nick Szabo or even some mainstream money historians, you see collectible, store of value, medium of exchange, and then unit of account, which makes sense because, for example, I know few people, it's still a niche, that will use Bitcoin as a store of value, and they will use only Bitcoin as a store of value. When you do, then you also use it as a medium of exchange because you don't have anything else.
Yes.
And you don't want to go through the effort to buy fiat first if you cannot. So in Lugano, most of the people that I know that will spend Bitcoin are the ones that don't have anything else. So that's one angle. The other angle is cypherpunk versus institutional, mainstream. This is also somewhere where I'm optimistic in the sense that the percentage of strongly ideological cypherpunks like Andreas himself right now is for sure lower, the percentage, but the absolute amount of cypherpunk radicalized people I know today, in counting them, is probably one order of magnitude more than back in 2013.
Yeah.
So the amount of radicalized, ideologically rigorous cypherpunks increased, but the point is that normies coming in, new coiners, increase faster.
Yeah.
But that's natural because Bitcoin is also this kind of radicalizing orange peel. And first you come in for the investment, then maybe you also start to spend, then maybe you get censored on some platforms, so you or you cannot buy something, or you cannot donate to a cause. Then maybe you start to get the other angle. So I think that everything is kind of okay. Of course, there is some more noise than back in 2013. Andreas, I think. Now, he's my hero, but we had to slay our heroes. So I think he had the flow of not really making a stand against shitcoins.
Yeah.
When shitcoins were still, to some degree, interesting, even for me, like new experiments, by not making a stand, he unfortunately he helped to create the crypto meme, which is mostly 99% noise and very, very little signal. So that's a problem we didn't have back then.
Yeah.
But everything else is good in the sense that Andreas was forced to talk with his own audience. Some technical level, abstract. For example, Andreas, even on technical side, Andreas will not go through a BTC session kind of tutorial. Well, rarely, he will talk more in abstract.
Yes.
So we need the band kind of education, which is one thing. Then we need education which maybe is ideological, but it's less disconnected from mainstream. What Alex Galstein or Anita Posch can do with marginalized groups is different from the take of Andreas on the same groups. Then you can have the technical expertise of somebody from Bitcoin Core teaching you or debating with Knots about highly technical details, even more opinionated than Andreas will have done.
Yeah.
Then you need people talking with companies and treasuries, the infamous Sailor talk with some companies, or Jack Dorsey with the other companies. So these people, they can talk in a way that Andreas could not have back then.
Yeah.
So I think the education now is richer. The only problem compared to that time is noise. It's much harder to filter it out.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And yeah, the sheer amount of protocols and like shitcoins out there that kind of diluted what the industry kind of started as, I think is a very difficult thing. I don't want to get like super technical with this conversation, but part of what I wanted to talk about as well was the culture of Bitcoin, and especially this like core versus knots debates. And I don't know how deep you guys want to go into it, or if you want to just weigh in on the existence of, you know, these very polarizing factions that Bitcoin has had to deal with. I mean, you can go back to the block size wars as well, very similar type of debate. From the outside, like, if people don't know much about Bitcoin, they're actually not going to care at all. But like the hardcore Bitcoiners are still kind of at each other's throats and very much divided. But yet they'll all still come to the same conferences and they'll walk past each other and like probably, you know, say hello or like wave to each other.
Yeah, in person we are keyboard lions, keyboard lions. Way nicer in person. Well, I don't know about you. I'll let you first.
I mean, like, there are, 20,000 nodes online right now? And like they say 23% are knots.
Yeah.
Like you could fit every single knots node runner on planet Earth in this room.
Yeah.
It's like, they're a very small group, but I think what they're addressing is kind of important, which is that I think Core has kind of lost the plot. Like this censoring, I don't believe in the censoring of Mechanic and all that stuff they went through. However, I'm not a big fan of like BIP 110. And
Yeah.
I don't want to go super deep into that, but I think it's very important that like every aspect of Bitcoin, whether it's mining centralization, with like datum, and whether it's nodes, that like there is an opposing voice if there is a monopoly. Like we cannot have just one voice. And I also think duopolies are just as terrible. Like if it's like, oh, you got to pick one side or the other, it's also kind of BS. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. I think it's like Production Ready is working on like a third implementation which is cool. It sounds very conservative, like Knots, but like a little bit more distributed. So I don't know, culturally, I do think that the Knots people would have you believe that there is like a much bigger civil war going on at the heart of Bitcoin.
Yes.
But it's like the data doesn't actually prove that in like who uses it and who runs nodes and things like that. But I'm happy that that tribe has brought spam and the moneyness aspect of Bitcoin into the conversation in the way that they have.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's like the most important way of addressing it.
No.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that there are, not unlike the Blockchain wars, in this specific civil war, there are many orthogonal debates going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are lucky and you find yourself aligned with one side on all of them, but most often you will, if you are free and you are thinking for yourself, you will just pick a specific position in that could be different and heterogeneous compared to the rest of the group. For example, in this debate there is a discussion, like you mentioned, about money versus like monetary use case, do one thing and do it well, versus be the platform for whatever else.
Yeah.
And that's it's a very interesting debate because for some people, like our friend Peter Rizzo, he basically coined the term two maximalism, the monetary maximalism and the platform maximalism.
Yes.
And it's weird because somebody is, before saying I'm maximalist means that I just care for the monetary use. Now some people will throw maximalism at you saying, since we are maximalists, everything should be done on Bitcoin, including this completely related thing. That's one debate. I think that interestingly enough, most core developers side ideologically with the monetary maximalists. There have been exceptions, and these exceptions have been very visible and very awkward, but today, most of the core devs I personally know kind of align low-key with these, and when they try to make a difference, they mostly do it in style and priorities and maybe strategy to get there, or just for a different tone of voice. Then the second battle is completely related to spam or anything else, and it's a battle about governance in Bitcoin. So there is a GitHub repo which is managed by a specific set of people. We can say the core project is a evanescent group of unrelated 100 people of different nationalities, but the fact is that the repository is managed by a very small number of people with a precise hierarchy of technical power. If we're going to be honest, the GitHub repo is basically owned by Microsoft right now, and then there are some people that are working for Brink or Chaincode, and even the mid-space part of Bitcoin Core, like the core dev meetups, physical meetups, which are very important because the bandwidth we can establish here in person is orders of magnitude more than what you can do online.
For sure.
And that usually happens organized by very good people at Brink, like Schmidt and others that are doing this thankless job, but this job has power and influence, and so there is a debate about that and how much that power is going to centralize, is going to be self-referential, which is not something which happens because some core devs are evil or anything. It's just because any organization, including our organizations, tend to become. When I run a company and I have the Italians in the company, it's easier for me. It's easier for me to talk with the Italians. So maybe I create some privilege kind of challenge with them. It's natural. Like there are this kind of stuff. Then there is a third orthogonal battle, which is mostly technical, which is mempool management. So what is the mempool for? Is the mempool just to predict blocks in order for miners to basically be able to get closer to there?
Yeah.
Or is it a way to discourage users from doing bad stuff? In the past, the mempool was used by people, including Satoshi and others, for the second use case, which is now being basically abandoned by most core devs because they find it ineffective, starting from full RBF with Peter Todd and other things. So now basically one core dev remained unconvinced, which is Luke Dashir. So now the second problem is intervening with the third because Luke has been ousted for many reasons. Then there is a fourth battle, which is underlying, but it's felt. It's a woke issue on software. So beside Bitcoin, we see the woke movement, the social justice movement in video games, movies, Hollywood, Disney, and that's not something that doesn't exist. I mean, you just check a South Park episode and you know it does exist, it's real. in software, it did create some problems, including the Rust Foundation or SQLite, so Linux Foundation. There has been takeovers based on this kind of work ideology. So there was the concern that some of these could make it into Bitcoin. And even if I think the concern I was one of the people most sensitive to it, I think Bitcoin is being mostly spared, and luckily at this point the pendulum of work hype is going back.
Yeah.
So probably we're just safe. Still, that was connected with all of these.
Yeah.
And then there are personal beefs, and
Yeah.
personal beefs they
run
always
deep.
love. You always love to have a technical excuse to
Yeah.
bring on a personal beef with somebody,
Yeah.
and so it's a very, if we take it while staying rational and honest, this could be a very great occasion to learn a lot of things. Many people I know learn the difference between consensus and mempool policy during the debate. They learn the definition, the economic definition of spam, which is not something which is free, but something which costs a sublinear. They will learn it from the debate. So it's a great occasion to educate ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. You gave a very good break. That entire thing was like the entire core versus not debate, like in totality.
I like to create schemes in my mind.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I want to ask you guys quickly what you think about like Michael Saylor selling 32 Bitcoin and then buying a shitload back this week, and just his overall influence on the Bitcoin movement. It's like it's highly divisive. Some people think it's good, some people think it's bad. I think we don't get to choose how people use Bitcoin, and that's kind of where I stand. Like if it has a use case because it's pristine collateral and a great store of value as the collateral that we use to issue digital credit, that makes sense. It's the same thing as like buying gold and then using that to create financial instruments. But your general thoughts on Saylor?
I don't think the way that he allocates his capital to Bitcoin really affects Bitcoin that much. Like, I think it's just so clear he acquired 100,000 Bitcoin and the price barely budged, and like him selling 32 did not tank it either. Like these are, his volume is not that big of a deal, and he's pointed this out multiple times. The only thing that's interesting about Saylor to me, honestly, and it's like, it's kind of true if you just see what he talks about now, is if you're a MicroStrategy shareholder, that's where the controversy lies, because I think
I'm a MicroStrategy shareholder,
so
and I'm down
I think
bad,
since
bro.
2020, I think since 2020 to 2025, the mission of that company was like very, very clear. Like acquire Bitcoin as non-dilutively, as accretive as possible for shareholders. And now it has turned into this like, well, we actually measure net assets, cash, and Bitcoin, and it's like all this only affects MSTR shareholders. And like my hot take on this whole thing is like, kiss MSTR goodbye. It's toast. They're gonna Zimbabwe it. Everything is on STRC. The only thing worth holding if you want something connected to him is STRC.
Yeah.
Because he's not gonna sell Bitcoin to fund STRC dividends. He will dilute that stock to high heaven and figure out ways. Because if STRC blows, it's over.
It's
that
over.
entire game is over. The preferred stocks were like the last breath of air for the treasury company thing.
Yeah.
And smart people have been saying from the start, like, the way to run a treasury company is like you just have a company that just makes a good product and you just roll your profits into Bitcoin and you just save in Bitcoin. It's not that complicated.
Yes.
But they all got into this whole like ATM, convertible, we're gonna borrow. It's like all nonsense. They're all worthless companies now. And then they figured out, oh, this preferred credit thing is kind of interesting. Oh, that's a product. But it's like predicated on this performance thing, and you have to figure out how you're going to manage the down years.
Yeah.
And
that's what Jack Mallers basically said to me on the interview before.
Yeah,
Because the
yeah.
questions he was asking him yesterday at the corporate day is like, how do you explain MNAV now, and like the complicated nature of what MicroStrategy was 4 years ago versus like what Saylor's built now, and these 5 different offerings and the balance between, you know, the preferreds and the equity and the debt. Like, it's just this constant balancing act, and like he has to sacrifice something in order to keep things in balance, you know, and something's gonna get fucked.
You don't have to be
along
a
the way.
rocket scientist. Like when this was working, the only thing Saylor would post on Twitter was like, hodl, and here's like an AI photo of myself. You go on his Twitter in the last week, it's just like essays responding to like misinformation.
Yeah.
That is a perfect reflection of like all of the errors that he's made. you don't like pour water on a house that's not on fire.
Yeah.
Right? And he's just, it's like every like couple minutes he's tweeting and probably trying to figure out how to like phrase this or that.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I don't know, I can't pinpoint the exact strategic error. We can all debate it. To me, the biggest strategic error that was so obvious is like, why would you buy back converts at an 8% discount? That's not worth getting up in the morning for. I don't understand why you would do that, and I don't understand why you would tell investors that like the dividend reserve that you made was for paying dividends and then use it to buy back your own bonds, which by the way, if he didn't do that, they would be trading at like more than an 8% discount right now, the same way that is like Stretch is trading at like a 5% discount. So to me, that was the biggest thing. But again, none of this stuff has to do with Bitcoin itself.
No, it
doesn't
doesn't.
affect
It's
Bitcoin,
financial
the network.
engineering. Yeah.
Saylor, like the only thing that could really hurt the Bitcoin price is if Saylor is forced to sell all his Bitcoin in a very short period of time. But the way the balance sheet is set up, he never actually has to do that.
Yeah.
He can sell clips here and there. So as far as I'm concerned, he has no effect on price in the immediate term. If he managed to keep this thing running, then effectively he has removed like a certain amount of supply from the market, which I think is, it's kind of nice for, I guess, stock to flow. But
Yeah.
other than that, I don't think about it too much.
It's a
It's a good way to get engagement, I guess.
yeah.
But
It's a good riff though.
Bitcoin remains unfazed
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah, I think the reason for this convoluted devolution of and complexification of the strategy is that at the beginning the mission was very clear.
Yep.
Some class of investors, they want Bitcoin, but they cannot easily buy Bitcoin, at least not institutionally, like retirement funds and stuff like that. So before the ETFs, Saylor just invented a great ETF proxy.
Yep.
So it's a listed company in the New York Stock Exchange that you can just buy with the same tools on ETF, and you buy Bitcoin. That was clear. After the ETFs, he was smart enough to create another great arbitrage, which was basically this. If you want to borrow fiat to buy Bitcoin and you are just a retail, your credit rate would be terrible. A public company can access to this with a great credit rate with an arbitrage. That was also
Zero credit rate
right
at the beginning.
So it's incredible.
Yeah.
So it's an arbitrage. But then every other public company can do the same, and some of them started to do the same. So what is your moat? And then the trouble started, because then he said that he was going on ChatGPT to ask for new financial project, and it shows. So, so that's one thing. The second thing I would say about Saylor is that, unfortunately, I think that his communication style, not the communication content, deteriorated as well a lot. At the beginning, he was not talking about privacy and cypherpunk value a lot, which is fine, because as I said, different targets, different priorities, different core values, like you talk about store of value. He was making some mention, for example, once he said, good luck to come after me if I have a boating accident, which was like that was tax this. So that was cool. After that, he got tax investigation, and so he started to not only be silent about that, which I will understand, but actually to propagate a completely opposite message to our core values. In particular, there was this infamous podcast in which he called us a paranoid crypto-anarchist, in which he basically said gold confiscation by Roosevelt was actually a nice thing. He just asked it nicely, and Americans decided to give up the gold. It's impossible that happens now, and even when it happened, it was not really a confiscation. So this is actually anti-education in core value. I appreciate when somebody targeted to a different target than mine will shut up on things that are not fit, but you should not go against. And the second deterioration on the content is shitcoining. Saylor was known to be, no second best. That's it. Then I was in Washington last year, BTC in DC, and he started to talk about Katy Perry coin, NFT. And I was thinking it was a joke, but then actually it was not a joke. He was serious, and he was talking about Katy Perry coin, and he went on to basically, right now is basically, Bitcoin is the best in these, but there are second best, which is basically every crypto bullshit you can imagine. And I think that this second deterioration of the message is connected with the first, because when I met Michael here in Prague, it was a great gentleman, great dinner.
That's like 3 years ago, right?
3 years ago.
When he was in the Bitcoinator,
two years ago.
Bitcoinator van. Do you remember that famous
Yeah,
photo?
yeah. No, I think the dinner though was 2 years ago.
Okay.
And he made the point that he thought that all the shitcoins were going to disappear because Gary and the government will go after them, destroying them.
Yeah.
So his maximalism was driven not by economic thinking about convergence of money. It was driven by statist thinking about government banning the alternatives.
Yeah.
So whenever Ethereum didn't have an ETF, there was no second best. But now they have ETFs. So his foundations, his first principles are not based on monetary convergence and monetary theory. So now that the government, Trump, the shitcoin president, the Trump coin, Melania coin, he cannot be maximalist anymore under his own first principles that are state-derived. So there is a connection there for the worsening of his message. That said, he still follows me on Twitter, so
Have you gone after him?
We have the coveted Sailor follow. We don't want to lose it. I still want to
on
come
it,
to the
guys.
second 100K party. I didn't
Let's all
invite
get
the first
blocked.
one.
Come on. No, I'm joking.
No, I mean, I think like just to like wrap it up, I think the lens that you have to look at how Sailor has changed his communication style all has to do with incentives. Like he was never going to get anyone to buy MSTR if he didn't at first explain the value proposition of Bitcoin over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And now that people kind of get it, right? Now he has to explain why his company is best advantage, take advantage of that.
Yes.
Borrow at 0%. And now his pitch is like, well, we actually are going to build an actual business at some point selling derivatives. And it's just like, just one of the things to keep in mind with Sailor is he's like a cockroach, and that's like a very Bitcoiner thing to be, like the cockroach unkillable.
You can't die.
But
Yeah.
he ran this company through like the dot-com bubble for like 18 years, and they tried every innovation in the book to try and figure out how to move the needle on this thing. And so from a price perspective, like MSTR is gonna be all over the place. But I think the last thing that Sailor is gonna do is he's not gonna let himself get wiped out. At the
Yeah.
worst, he's gonna figure out some way to like keep some baseline, and he's just gonna keep trying things to see what happens until they stick. But he's not gonna jeopardize what they've built. So
Yeah.
this idea that he's gonna get liquidated or whatever is kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
But understand that like all of his incentives, the thing that he's promoting this week or that week, it just all has to do with like trying the market and seeing what they'll take.
I think so too. I think it was really just like letting the market understand that, hey, we might need to sell some Bitcoin to raise money to cover the dividend payments, and it's possible for us to do that. But we're probably going to dilute the MSTR shareholders even more before we sell a large chunk of Bitcoin.
You got to realize, like, this guy professionally yapped his way into like taking a $500 million company into like a $60 billion company with only 20% of his balance sheet being debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they didn't actually create anything except yap and convince enough people to like fund the yap.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's awesome. Like I'm
It is awesome.
stoked. I wish I could yap my way to 60
Yeah,
billion
that's a
and like 4%
talent, I mean,
of
that's a
the Bitcoin
skill.
supply. That is an amazing skill, and we shouldn't underplay that. But yeah, at the foundation of that, it's like it doesn't actually change Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So
He found a money glitch, if you really think about it. He
he's
did.
a great
He did.
speaker. He's engineered
Yeah.
the English language
Yeah.
to perfection.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah, I think we've had a flipping fantastic conversation. I think my last kind of question is, it's been a pretty brutal bear market. I don't know how much you guys care about the price of Bitcoin. I'll be honest, like where I am right now in my life and how I understand Bitcoin, I'm quite happy for the price to go lower so I can stack more stats as I go. Like that's great for me. But there's a lot of people that do worry like about the price of Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin. Where does your conviction lie? Are you more excited than ever? I mean, we've got amazing tools at our disposal now. Like I feel like Bitcoin could reach its full potential in the next 5 to 10 years and actually be a store of value and a medium of exchange, and then eventually the unit of account, like it go through the full cycle. Where do you guys sit on that?
I'll be the bear in the room and just say we cannot forget that sound money has gone through periods of like complete long-term consolidation, especially in the wake of like massive technological change. Like we can't forget as Bitcoiners, and like the most recent instance of it is like gold, 1981, new all-time high, 2003, 5 or something. It can happen to Bitcoin. And it can happen to Bitcoin for a few reasons, but I think one of them is the narrative is a little bit self-reinforcing. Like if our number one sales pitch for Bitcoin is digital gold, except it underperforms gold and it also underperforms the S&P over 5 years,
Yeah.
then like, good luck, you've lost that card, you can't play it. What it means is that the use case for Bitcoin has to present itself, and it has, in like two big terrible exogenous events with like the pandemic and the 2008 collapse. And if one of those exogenous like events doesn't happen, that proves the utility of Bitcoin as this like borderless, like uncensorable money, and it just like nothing happens, let's just say, and the debt just trudges along, we don't get the big print that everyone talks about, 20 years of shit all.
Yeah.
I don't think that it kills Bitcoin. It definitely won't kill Bitcoin. But a lot of us here are going to be like spinning our tires, and that's why I say, like, you should spend your Bitcoin on yourself. The best thing that we can do to help the price of Bitcoin is just be like successful in our own right.
Yeah.
And the message of Bitcoin will not be carried by like more of us becoming these like hardcore maximalists and making it our entire identity.
Yeah.
The identity of Bitcoin will be carried by people just being very successful entrepreneurs, parents, creators, and injecting the message of Bitcoin in everything that we do and have that seep out into the culture. If we let everyone know that, you know, our primary savings method is Bitcoin and we like to transact in Bitcoin, and we run multi-million-dollar, I don't know, plumbing businesses or like media companies or AI companies, then the rest of the world will just think that we have common sense.
Yes.
And that's where we need to get Bitcoin to. We can't have Bitcoin just be this fringe thing that is like break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah.
Bitcoin has to just become common sense.
Yeah.
And until we become common sense with how we allocate our time and how we structure our intelligence in this room, like it will just be a fringe thing and it'll end up like gold. So I don't know, I'm rambling, but my message is like, go out and build things and be excellent, be as excellent as like everyone knows a room of Bitcoiners is from an outsider's perspective. And just start proving it to the world. Like Jack Dorsey is actually building shit, which is cool.
Yeah.
Right? But he's not like, that's not the only thing he talks about.
No, exactly.
So,
Well, I'm conflicted on this. On one side, I completely agree that Bitcoin will grow in adoption, especially if its value proposition gets tested. Its value proposition is resistant to inflation and hyperinflation and mass confiscation and surveillance. And in peaceful times, which we're not living through peaceful time, but we're living in such messed up time that you cannot even actually say if it's peaceful or not. It's very confused, but it never breaks. Like the system was about to break again with COVID, it was about to break with the war, but it doesn't, it stays there. So as long as at least the first world where most of the wealth is now is not really feeling inflation as an imminent danger, that characteristic of Bitcoin is not could be really stressed out.
Yeah.
And as long as the same world doesn't feel confiscation as a strong issue, like it may become in some new Roosevelt moment, people will not care about privacy and private keys and stuff like that. They just want to protect from mild, predictable inflation, even if maybe it's double digits, but it's still predictable. And they just want maybe sometimes to feel some de-risking from the bureaucracy, but it's very mild. So when email replaced paper email, it was not because the physical post offices were crumbling down.
Yeah.
And so it was low, because you just have these marginal advantages. It's not that the system that you have is falling down and you need a replacement. So Bitcoin can go through this very, very vertical phase in case of a collapse of the system, which to some degree we all wrongly predicted many times, at least when we were younger. And or it can go marginal adoption like email, which is a very slow phenomenon. I think that maybe some people will come at me for this, but I after reading the paper, I don't believe in price prediction of any kind. By definition, they are impossible, because if you have a price prediction, you will act on it and you will change the price. So it's intrinsically impossible. But as a very long-term, high-level, coarse grain kind of orientation, I do like the paper about the power law by Santo Stasi, because I think that the fundamental mechanistic explanation is viral things, not just like Bitcoin, but like kernel, Linux kernel, like the internet, things that are spread with word of mouth, without the coordinated marketing effort and without the centralized power, they are scale invariant and stuff like that. They tend to express a dependence on time with the power of 3, like a cubic power. And then the Metcalfe law is not something crazy. We know that the monetary value of a network more or less approximate the square of the number of nodes. So it's not a surprise to see that the
60,000.
number of addresses on chain is basically going with the cube of time,
Yeah.
and the value is basically going with the square of that, which is the 6 power. So it does make sense. You cannot use it to trade, also
Yeah.
because the noise is more than the signal there.
Yes.
But even the noise, I also believe in any kind of price woo. Actually, I do believe in that a little bit. I don't use it for trading because it's useless.
Yeah.
But I also believe in the cyclic theory because I see it on myself and on the people around me. I see the first cycle, you get scared. You think you bought the top and you have been scammed and you sell. The second one, you say, wait a minute. Maybe when you buy back at the same time, at the same price of the last peak or higher, you are harder to scare.
Yeah.
Third time in a row, you are basically
not
you are
scared at all.
diamond hands.
Yeah.
So the cohorts of investors are like that.
Yeah.
The new cohorts of investors, which are bigger, the institutional, they are smart money, but still they can
have
abandon
to
the
go through
investment
the
thesis pretty.
psychology.
Yeah, they can invest. They can abandon the investment thesis pretty fast.
Yeah.
While the people that got smart or lucky in 2010, they have seen their amount of bear markets. So the fact that we are dancing with the previous cycle top is not numerology, it's not magic.
Yeah.
It's the fact that there is a volume, a cohort of investors which is there since before the last 2021 hype.
Yeah.
So they are a little bit hard. They don't have the necessity to sell, or they have more conviction on average, of course.
Yeah.
So I'm convinced that this cyclic theory is still going to hold, at least not forever, of course. Nothing is forever, but still for a while, I think, because we didn't reach saturation of possible investment cohorts yet.
Yeah.
We're still very far from that.
I think we're far.
So we can still have probably some power low with this kind of 4-year cycle. The 4-year nature of it is weird, admittedly. There is connection to halving, cool sand, this kind of supply shock signal trigger, basically. Even it could be priced in. It's weird, but you also have 4 years for presidential administrations.
The ISM business cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
business. So there are so many. It's even like a leap year.
Yeah.
So many things that go 4 years together with Bitcoin. I would say the last thing, which is I love this particular bear market. Every Bitcoiner say because I can stack more. Sure, that's true.
Yeah.
Because we have some decrease on noise. The shitcoiners will go away for a while. Let us build cool stuff. It's time for building. We say it's true. But I think this one in particular is killing Bitcoin companies, and I'm excited about that because I think that we don't need many Bitcoin companies.
You're talking about the treasury companies, right?
All of them. Like,
Okay.
how many internet companies do you have? How many gold companies do you have? You have a Cisco. You have a couple of browsers. You have Google doing Chrome, and then you have Safari. You have a couple of software houses doing the browser, the interface with the user.
Yeah.
You have people building infrastructure, like people maintaining the ocean cable and stuff like that. And the satellite, you have Elon Musk with the satellite, but that's a very few companies. With gold, you have a few mines, and you have a few coinage people, and a few people building safes. But then most of the way to use money is to use it for your own company. A little bit like he was saying. Don't build a Bitcoin company. Build a company, creating value, and use Bitcoin for what Bitcoin is good for your company.
Yes.
So use Bitcoin as a treasury. If you have a more than 4 years buffer and you can go down, use it for your treasury or part of your treasury. And then use it to be paid if you are aiming that kind of market that could use Bitcoin to bypass the limit and the friction of fiat payment. If you do that, Bitcoin is great for your company because your company is not just trying to reinvent the business model that is not there on Bitcoin, but you are doing your business model powered by Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I think this bear market is killing a lot of ideas that were going in the old direction and actually forcing many entrepreneurs to find a real business model to empower with Bitcoin's properties.
I love it. I love you guys, man. This is really great. Speaking of power law, I'm going to get Giovanni, who I think he was at a couple of the BTC Inc. Bitcoin conferences as well, and he's also been BTC Power Law.
Now he's everywhere.
Yeah, and he's around. So we want to get him on the stream tomorrow and talk to us about the power law and how it
he's
relates
a
to
physicist
Bitcoin.
like me.
So like super interesting to break it down and just look at it another way. But thank you so much for joining us, guys. It was really great conversation.
Thanks for having
if you
us.
don't already follow them online, we've got their handles right underneath, but you can find them. If you're a Bitcoiner, you're probably following them already. Thank you so much for joining us on the live stream. We're going to take a short break. We are expecting one more interview, but I don't see my guest here yet. It's Herman Vivier from Bitcoin Ikasi, a fellow South African. Maybe he's already gone to find a bar to start drinking some beers before South Africa take on Mexico in the World Cup opener tonight. But we'll try and find him, so keep it locked on the stream. We'll be back in a few minutes' time. Welcome back to BTC Prague and the starting block. We've been broadcasting all day. This is the final interview, and I'm sitting down with a fellow South African, Herman Verveer. You might know him as the founder of Bitcoin Ikasi. And if you don't know what Bitcoin Ikasi is, we're going to talk about that right now. Herman, it's good to see you. I think properly the first time in person where we've actually sat down and had a full-on interview, one-on-one conversation.
Yeah.
It's good to see you again. Yeah, for the Blocks audience, people out there that might not know who you are and what Bitcoin Ikasi is, can you give us a quick rundown of how you got into Bitcoin and what Bitcoin Ikasi is?
Yeah, man. Very quickly, Bitcoin Ikasi it's a circular economy project. The name is a bit of a misnomer because a circular economy is it's not really a definitive a definition of what it is. It's just a name. So it's not that the thing is entirely circular, but we try and circulate sats rather than fiat.
Yeah.
Essentially, as far as possible. It doesn't mean we've eliminated fiat, but we pay salaries in Bitcoin and so on and so forth. So we run a couple of youth empowerment programs. It's based around surfing, skateboarding, and then financial literacy. We employ teachers, cooks, coaches, lifeguards, and they all earn their salaries in Bitcoin, and that gets spent in the local township environment. And then those merchants and their dependents also end up circulating sats. And the idea is to build a little small economy based around Bitcoin to demonstrate that it's possible.
Yeah.
Very much inspired by what happened in El Salvador with Bitcoin Beach. So we did take, I got into Bitcoin many years before that. I stumbled across it in 2013, and then my wife and I started using it as payments in our business in 2015.
Wow.
When we were separated from our client base due to sanctions. So we still run the company, but back then we had a tourism company with Eastern Europe and Russia as our primary markets, and so it's actually payments that got me into Bitcoin.
Okay.
So it's a medium of exchange for me.
Yeah.
It was a medium of exchange first before it was a store of value, and so the idea of building a circular economy kind of made sense from the very beginning. So yeah, it's not a massive project, but the idea is not to scale it to thousands of people. It's just a proof of concept.
How has it impacted people's lives in the area, in the township? I mean, have you seen a measurable change in some people's lives and the value that they've saved over time? And I mean, Bitcoin Ikasi has been going since which year? I mean, you should be able
2021.
Okay, so 5 years now already. Bitcoin's appreciated a lot in value since 2021. I mean, are there some people that were holding on to their sats that now have way more money than they would have had if they were just holding on to South African rands?
Yes and no. So obviously we're a charity organization, so the salaries we pay are pretty low.
Yeah.
We basically pay almost minimum wage wherever we can, and we employ people that are almost, for the most part, unskilled.
Yeah.
Not very high qualification. So it's hard for them to save, obviously. The ones that have saved have been stacking since the previous bear market. So this is the second bear market. And so they've definitely seen what can happen if you save sats for the long run. But it's not as if, look, in their terms, it's life-changing money that they have saved. But if I had to share with you the numbers, it wouldn't sound significant. But I think more importantly, it's not so much the sort of the objective wealth that they've saved. It's more the idea that they can save in something that appreciates in value.
Yes.
Because it's hard to imagine, most people, I guess most people at this conference, for example, Bitcoin was not the first savings mechanism that they encountered. They would have had a stock portfolio before Bitcoin, or maybe if they're really young, no.
Yeah.
But anyone over 40 who's at this conference probably had a stock portfolio of some kind of investment other than Bitcoin. Bitcoin might have outperformed all those other investments, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's very different if you've never had access to a savings mechanism before. If you've never been able to invest in property, because it's hard to invest in property with small amounts of money. if you've never had a stock portfolio because you don't have a proof of address, you can't open an account at a broker or whatever. I think it's more the fact that they're able to than the numbers itself. Of course, also, but there are some of them that have saved life-changing amounts of money.
Yeah.
You know, we've got one of our guys who might finally be able to afford Lobola to get married, because that's something that's real. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there are many people that they put that off forever and they never get married, and they have kids and they never get married because they can't afford to pay that Lobola, that dowry.
Yeah.
And so he's looking to get married this year or next year because he's been able to save. There's other people who have been able to, you know, build a slightly bigger house for themselves. So yeah, it's definitely had an impact. But I mean, look, the environment is tough, and
Yeah.
so the impact, you'd expect to see that over a much longer time period.
Yeah.
5 years is still
Relatively short.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Just in terms of the sats flowing around the township, I mean, can you talk about how many people? I mean, like, do you have a rough number of how many like vendors in the township are actually using Bitcoin? How many people are, and what like wallets they're using? Yeah.
I mean, we have some estimates. We try not to interfere in people's personal financial affairs too much.
For sure.
But our best estimate, so we employ a staff of 10 people full-time, and then we employ a staff of 10 people part-time. So that's 20 salaries all in all. Then there's about 45 merchants. And so if you add that up, that's like 65, 75 people. But then take into consideration that each one of those people have at least one or two dependents.
Yeah.
So that's what, 65, call it 60 times 3, 180. And the dependents obviously use Bitcoin as well, because if it's the dad working, then the mom and the teenage daughter who lives at home will get Bitcoin from the dad, who then go. So it's about 180 people with direct exposure to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Through the staff and the merchants, and then we've got secondary projects, you know, like that we also, for example, we painted a bunch of shacks in the township, and some of the companies then donate to have their logo displayed. It's a kind of marketing, I suppose, you know. That whole thing runs based on sats as well, and so those families also earn Bitcoin. That's another 150 people. So if you add all of that up, in the end, you're looking at about maybe 500 to 600 people that are using Bitcoin on a regular basis, and using meaning they earn, spend, and save in Bitcoin.
And it, like, just for the audience out there, because you and I are both South African, so we understand the context of townships, you know, but this is impoverished people, previously disadvantaged, that you just wouldn't ever think would be using a smartphone and, you know, using a digital currency like Bitcoin. So it's kind of, you have to see it to understand the, you know, like the impact that it has and sort of just how special it is. But yeah, it's just worth saying that. In terms of South Africa and Bitcoin, like, I left in 2022. I live in the Netherlands now, and I think that there is a huge wave of people that actually own some Bitcoin, and maybe not that many use it, but you know, like Money Badgers had a big role in getting Bitcoin payments across big retailers in the country. Luna and Valor have become very, very big companies. You know, like Valor sponsors the Stormers. You know, Luna's on the jersey of the Bulls, I think. You know, so like two of the big rugby franchises have cryptocurrency exchanges sponsoring them. So I think like the industry is alive and well in South Africa, but there's been some moves, you know, afoot, like from a regulatory perspective that might harm that in the long term. But just your general take on Bitcoin in South Africa, have you seen it continue to grow as a movement, and do you think it will be one of those countries that does kind of lead the way in adoption and actually using Bitcoin as a savings tool and money in the future?
I don't know if South Africa will be a leader. It's very hard to tell at this stage. It's sort of, things are kind of balancing on a knife's edge in South Africa with regards to many things.
Yeah.
Also with regards to this. I do kind of see. I mean, I'm quite positive about South Africa long term, for reasons that are not necessarily related to Bitcoin, as much as it's related to the sort of the evolution of democracy. I mean, I think South Africa has a promising future if it can have a peaceful transition to a post-ANC government. But that's a totally different topic on its own. So I think long term there's hope for the country, but it's not a given.
No.
Not by a long shot. There's many things that could go wrong. I think South Africa is fairly, like, look, I think one of the most interesting things to come out of South Africa is, I'd say there's maybe, for me personally, two things. The one is the emergence of Bitcoin circular economies, which happened organically. I mean, our own project being one example. But we do a post-conference road trip every year after the Adopting Bitcoin Cape Town conference, and every year it gets a little longer because we're up to about 6 circular economies on the garden route of South Africa, within a stretch of about 500 kilometers. So within the Western Cape alone, there's 6 of these projects. None of them are sort of top-down things. They're organically emerging people within the community, wanting to do this. The first ones were ourselves and Bitcoin Witsand, and there's been several that's followed. And outside of the Western Cape, there's other examples, and that I think is interesting. There's not many places in the world, other than maybe El Salvador, where you've got such a high, and Kenya, as far as I'm aware. There's not many places in the world where you've got such a high prevalence of grassroots projects. And I kind of see those as very, not separated, but very different from the sort of the institutionalized world of, you mentioned Luno and Valor. As much as those companies have done for the ecosystem, I think there are many people at those companies who don't really care too much about the roots of where this thing came from. And I think ultimately it's the grassroots projects that kind of, because they're not top down, and they're not profit motivated. They're there for the revolution, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's very interesting. I'm bullish on South African circular economies because there's so many of them, and they just emerged organically.
Yeah. And it's purely an example of actually just using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, right? It's like you have an alternative way, an alternative money that you can use to pay for things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't depend on anyone else, which I think is very powerful, because it does kind of, it's like you said, you came to Bitcoin to use it as a medium of exchange because you had an issue doing payments.
Yeah.
Whereas most people come to Bitcoin because they've been sold on the idea of it being digital gold, a store of value.
Number go up.
Which it is.
It is. Yeah,
by nature of how the protocol works and what it is. But at the same time, most people do forget that point. Like, it is a medium of exchange if you use it like that. And guys like Michael Saylor have in the past been criticized because he's like, don't talk about that. I was actually at a conference in New York last year, Anthony Pompliano's Bitcoin Investor Week, and Mike Novogratz was on stage, and he literally said on stage, he's like, don't talk about Bitcoin as money because that fucks with my narrative. Like, it's an investment tool.
Well, then I'll fuck with your narrative.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're here for, But it's interesting to hear, like, there are guys like Mike Novogratz who's in it for like the number go up investment thesis, and then there's people that have helped build a Bitcoin circular economy where it's like, no, this is how we transfer value between each other, and it is a monetary protocol. So it is very important, and that's like, for me, chatting to you today, I want to be part of telling that story. And lots of people, I mean, like, you guys are a known entity, so it's not like I'm doing anything special here, but I'm helping tell that story because I think it's important for people to understand that Bitcoin is money. And like, don't ever let anyone tell you that it isn't and that it can't be that, because it already is in some places.
No, 100%.
Even if it's small,
No,
So that matters a lot.
Just to jump in there,
ahead.
I think I was having this conversation with somebody outside, and I think what people have to remember is that it doesn't matter which way you spin this, and it doesn't matter how much you dress it up, doesn't matter how much you candy coat this. There is a fundamental clash between the thing that Satoshi built and released in 2009 and the current system.
Yeah.
Like, power does not want self-custody, self-sovereignty, and privacy.
Yes.
Power wants control. Power wants to be able to tell you what you can and cannot do with your money. Power wants to be able to tell you where you can and cannot hold it. And power wants to know who is doing what with their money, and wants the power to be able to confiscate it when they think it's the right thing to do. And so there's a fundamental clash, and you can institutionalize Bitcoin as much as you like. The thing itself is on a collision course with the existing system. It's a new system that's being built, and at some point there's going to be a standoff. And I don't want to ever, throw rocks in the street in riot ever. Like, that's why I think Bitcoin is interesting, because I think Bitcoin is a revolution of sorts, but it avoids
revolution,
a quiet
right?
revolution where you avoid using violence. You simply remove the power from the people who would otherwise oppress you. And the thing that a lot of these Michael Saylor type people don't seem to want to acknowledge is that Bitcoin is all of these things, because it's not going to be a store of value unless it's also a medium of exchange. Because what's the best way, like, forget about circular economies for a moment. What's the best way to stack sats? The best way to stack sats, if you can, is to mine it.
Yeah.
Because that's KYC free.
Yes.
And you can do that wherever, whenever, in whatever way you like. But most people can't do that. Most people don't have tons of free electricity. What's the second best way to get Bitcoin? It's to sell your goods and your services, your time and your energy. Sell that for Bitcoin, instead of selling that for fiat and then going out and buying Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because when you sell your time and your energy for fiat and then going out buying, then you're in their system.
Yeah.
If you're selling your goods and your services for Bitcoin directly, that's how we create an alternative system, where it's up to the individual to take that power back. And this is, I mean, one can candy coat and sugar coat this as much as you like. That's just a fundamental part of this thing. And if you take that away from it, well, then it's
What is
nothing. It's just another asset held by the bank.
Yes.
And there goes the value of your store of value goes to shit if it's held in custody and completely institutionalized.
Yeah.
The reason it has value is because you can self-custody it. Even though most people don't,
Yeah.
you can self-custody it. And I think that narrative is very, very important to give a voice to, not because you want to force people to use Bitcoin the way you are using it,
Yeah.
but just to remember that we're not here to get rich. We're here to create a better system.
Yeah.
That's kind of what sets Bitcoin apart,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think, I mean, not to take the conversation too long, but what do you think of Michael Saylor being at all these conferences now and sort of being, I mean, he's been very much the salesman of Bitcoin the past 2 or 3 years, right? Like, he's been the face of Bitcoin. We all can't deny that that's not true. And at times he's been good for Bitcoin, and at other times he's not been good for Bitcoin.
I mean, it is what it is. It's it's like I don't want to make value judgments on these things, because the guy has done a hell of a lot for the promotion of the brand.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
No one can argue against that. And it's like the, let's use the social media conversation as a sort of an analog. People love to say, oh, social media is bad and we've got to blame social media for this and that. And it's like, well, it's not bad and it's not good. It's both of those things at the same time. It's done a lot for decentralizing communication.
Yeah.
It's given, you're sitting here today interviewing me thanks to the advancements in communication technology, including social media.
We're live streaming on X. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's very clearly a good thing, but then at the same time, it's also there's a lot to be said for the algorithm, prioritizing negativity, and in that way creating a lot of problems. And so, it's I don't know, it is what it is, and that's why I don't want to tell people, Michael Saylor is a bad guy and he's not doing good for Bitcoin. He's part of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
He's not part of my community,
Yeah.
but there are many communities in Bitcoin.
Yes.
There's the institutional community, there's the spammer community, there's the, and then there's the sort of the maxi community, and then there's the cypherpunk community, and there's the hodl, never sell,
Yeah.
full-on self-custody, self-sovereign, host all my own shit on my own server community.
Yeah.
And it's all part of the same ecosystem. I just think it's important to remind people that is not Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's a subset of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if it loses another part of itself, it could potentially become impotent,
Yeah.
so to speak.
And we don't want that. We definitely don't want that.
No.
Look, I think there's still enough good people that understand what it should be and what it was meant to be, and we will move in that
Absolutely.
direction. So
No, definitely.
we're all hopeful.
No.
I want to just quickly talk about this because you gave me one of these, right? So do you want to talk about this quickly, and then maybe just talk about how people can sorry, my producer's saying I need to talk in the microphone. So you've given me one of these. This is part of the initiative, I guess, with Bitcoin Ikasi. Can you talk a little bit about this? And if people want to get involved in supporting Bitcoin Ikasi, what can they do?
I mean, so this is a upcycled surfboard. I'm not gonna spoil it for you and open it right now.
That's okay.
You should go open it at home.
But you can show it to the camera so everyone can see at home. There you go.
So some of the youth programs that we run is based around surfing, and we use.
He wants you to pick it up. There you go.
Oh, hold it up even more. Is that good?
There you go.
Okay.
That'll do.
Some of the youth programs that we run is based around surfing.
Yeah.
And so we go through a lot of surfboards, and you can't always repair them. They become useless after some time, and then you throw them away. So instead of throwing the old boards away, we turn them into ornamental art pieces, and we put some Bitcoin art on them. We collaborate with a bunch of different Bitcoin artists, and it's a fun project. But ultimately, what it is that, what we're trying to do is we're trying to stimulate economic activity, and then encouraging people to shift that economic activity from fiat to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So we've created a job through this initiative.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dude that works for us that makes these full time. He also does board repairs for us, and the proceeds from these boards that we sell basically covers his salary, and his salary gets paid in Bitcoin. And the whole system just works a lot easier because we're able to run the system on Bitcoin. Like we didn't have to go create a new bank account.
Yeah.
We just made a new Bitcoin wallet, and there you go, accounting sorted. And it's way easier to sell them abroad.
Yeah.
Like we can, we don't sell them for fiat.
Yeah.
If you want to buy one, you got to pay in sats.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of coming up like that's. I would say if you had to summarize what is a Bitcoin circular economy in one sentence, it's basically a way of finding ways and means to apply Bitcoin in a practical way.
Yeah.
And to show people like this is how you can use Bitcoin in a practical way, and then this is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. There we go. And if people want to support Bitcoin Ikasi, how can they do that? Do they just need to go to the website or the X account? Do you take donations?
We do take donations. We are reliant on donations to a large extent, not entirely, but to a large extent. And the website is bitcoinikasi.com. Pretty straightforward. We're on X, and there's a link to our donation page on the website.
Awesome. Herman, thanks so much for coming and chatting to us today, because I think it's important to tell the Bitcoin circular economy's story, because it reminds us that Bitcoin is money and we can use it as money. So yeah.
If I just add one last thing,
Go
I
ahead.
think it's important to tell the circular economy story, because Bitcoin is not the end. Bitcoin is as a means to an end, and for me, the end has always been freedom.
Yeah.
Like freedom is what I want, and there are many ways to get there, and there are many tools that you employ to get there. And Bitcoin is one of those tools. And I think I don't think we should ever lose sight of that. Freedom is a struggle that mankind has engaged in for hundreds and perhaps even thousands of years. Since the first emperors declared themselves rulers,
Yeah.
people have had an urge for freedom. And Bitcoin is a powerful tool to help us get there, but it's important that we keep telling that story.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is freedom money.
Yeah.
The end goal is freedom. How are you using Bitcoin to give yourself more freedom? That's what it's all about.
Beautiful. Awesome. Herman, thanks so much for coming. Check out Bitcoin and Custody online if you haven't. They're on X or the website. And thank you so much for joining us on the live stream. If you watched us this morning or this afternoon, if you enjoyed the conversations, please like and retweet. And if you want to go back and catch our conversation with Jack Mallers a little bit earlier today, we had that at 1:30. So fast forward half an hour into the afternoon stream and you'll find that conversation with Jack Mallers, or just watch the whole thing all over again. I think it was that good that you might as well do that. We will be back here at BTC Prague tomorrow. We're broadcasting at 12 o'clock Central European time. I think that's 6 a.m. if you're in the United States and you want to wake up early and drink a cup of coffee and watch our conversation with Matt Cole from Strive, another one of the big Bitcoin treasury companies. We'll be chatting to him about the 32 Bitcoin that they bought this week, essentially buying the 32 Bitcoin that Michael Saylor sold last week. So we'll chat about that tomorrow morning. Please come and join us. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.